Welcome to your life. What is listening? What do you understand when you hear the question, what is listening? What do you listen when you listen? Have you ever thought about the fact that most of the words that you're speaking are words that you heard? So what is listening? Listening is what you're hearing when you decide to listen. So how many of the words that you speak out loud are words that you listened? Or is it just words that you heard from someone else? From the culture that raised you? From the books that you read? From the jokes of your parents? Or the stories of your peeps? So how much percentage of that which you speak are you inhabiting? What I'm here to present to you is the value of making sure to contain the words you speak out loud before you speak them out loud. Words are so sacred that they literally create reality. Did you ever wonder why things happen that are not what you planned? Well, have you ever stopped and listened to yourself speak? What is it that you are saying you want? What is it that you are thinking about yourself? The chaos of the ideas within you that were put there by the culture, by the self-defense mechanisms that you installed in order to survive since childhood, are everything and almost all that is speaking unless you're correcting yourself. How much percentage of your mind are you using? Have you heard this fact that it's less than 10%? For most people, it's 5% or less. So what's going on with the other percentage? Where does it go? What is this percentage about? What is this unconscious? What is all of this programming? Where does it lead you? I'm here to explain and to show that if you don't consider everything that you're not considering, guess what? That's what takes reign. And that's what takes all the territory over your life. How does that work? Well, have you ever thought about the root meaning of every single thing that you want to say? And are you listening? Are you listening? If I ask you the question, what is it that you live for? Will you give me an answer that is generic, that you found in a textbook, or that daddy told you before bedtime? Are you telling me something that you heard in an inspirational quote on internet? Or are you telling me an answer that you created on the spot? Are you creating on the spot the words you speak? Or are you just repeating them like a script because your opinions are fixed, because your belief systems are fixed? Are you a fixed character? Figment of your imagination? What you imagine to be because of what you heard? What is it? What do you live for? What do you want? The goals that you want to achieve, the goals that you set up to achieve, Are these ideas of yours? Are you going towards a success that was written in textbooks or taught to you word by word from your grandfather to your father, from your grandmother to your mother? What is it? Are you following a guideline? Are you following a script? Is your life a script? Did you do what you wanted with your life? Did you pick from the menu that was given to you, but not picked by you? Did you pick what you picked because that's what everyone said it was convenient? Or are you picking outside the menu? Are you creating an answer? Are you creating an answer? Are you creating an answer? Are you installing over and over again the thoughtware of modern culture, going towards their objectives and their desires and their meanings of success, realization, creation, beauty? Or are you picking outside the menu, creating your own set of answers? Well, welcome to your life. Have you ever wondered that everything that happens to you is because you're summoning it into reality? Well, almost everything, yes. How is this so? Well, you understand the composition of gas, liquid, the process of gas, liquid, solid, right? Have you heard about this before? Well, what if I were to tell you that the most subtle is the word? Yes, you say thoughts come first. Yes, but can you hear your thoughts completely if you're not hearing your thoughts completely? So, does that make sense? Does that make sense of direction? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? You see how the same concept applies to all of these that I pointed out. So what is sense? What are your senses? We talk about feelings, talk about ideas, talk about sense of direction. See, it's the same word. Are you differentiating? Are you differentiating? Who is discriminating by you? Who's discriminating for you? You see? Who's discriminating by you? Who's discriminating for you? Who spoke just 10 seconds ago? Who corrected? In real time, are you listening to the 90-something% of the unconscious programming, that which you took in without discrimination as you, as your own ideas, as your own desires and objectives? How much of that percentage you let out is your reality? That's what you're creating. That's what you're emanating. Did you ever hear about this before? What are you doing about it? What is listening? What is listening? What do you listen when you listen? Some can say, I listen to the birds sing to stay in the present. Okay? How do you stay in the present? What is the present? These are valuable questions to question. Or are you just following presents that you read in a book of meditation? Or were you taught that in your yoga class? What is presence? And are you creating it? Are you checking yourself? Are you listening? Are you discriminating between he whom speaks without your consent and blocking his voice, his thoughts, his desires, his ideas, his directionality, and giving your answer? You see, in ancient Egypt, the priests were measured by their humor, their smell, their perfume. And so one of the ways that this was explained was, do you smell like you want to smell? How do you remain smelling the way that you want to smell? And so there's an answer to this. How do you block the smell that you don't want to smell like and smell like you want to smell? Well, you first define what is that smell that you don't like to smell like. So what is that? What is that thing you do in everything you do, no matter if you're happy or you're angry, no matter if things go right or they go wrong? What is that one thing that your ego, let's bring up that word, the unconscious, the programming, the self-defense mechanisms, the enemy, the devil, there's so many words to it. What is that one thing that it wants in everything you do? See, when it was inscribed in your psyche, and that false identity was created for you and decided by you at the same time, everything that you do revolves around achieving that, solving that thing that didn't go the way that you planned or desired. That repression, that trauma, that small thing, small in the sense of you being small, but at the same time, that one thing is the motor and the motivation of everything underneath it all. Have you ever wondered that a mosquito bite and that person that speaks to you in the way that you don't like, what you feel, what you don't like about both is one thing. Now you may understand it as, no, the mosquito is causing something, an effect on me. This person is causing a different effect on me. Well, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what is it that you're doing as this is happening. Well, that one thing is exactly that one thing that this ego wants. So, in everything you do, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, this is the hidden agenda. Are you listening? In my case, it's listening. Gladfully, I have references as to blocking and how do I measure that I'm listening. That's why you see me stutter and pause and check myself again. Well, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. So how do we block? You just don't play it out. Don't play it out. Don't smell like you want to smell. You see? Correct yourself. Don't smell like you don't want to smell. But first defining, what is it? What is it, that thing that I want to separate from? See, you don't have to figure it out. What is that thing that your ego wants? Just define it. What is the most convenient thing for your ego to want? What is the most convenient thing for you, for your ego to want? Just make it up. Whether it's being shy, talking out loud, being grumpy all the time or most of the time, being super particular about things, being very uptight, being very loose, very free-flowing, it doesn't matter. What is it? So now you have the smell that you want to separate from, that you want to block and give an answer to. Now you have that. This is the smell I don't want to smell like. After that, how do you give an answer in a way where you know measurably? You measure. You can measure yourself. You can self-reference that you are remaining outside of this. In other words, that you're smelling like you want to smell. So the format goes like this, using the same example as the Egyptians, in ancient Egypt, the priests. Here we go. I don't smell like I want to smell. So this is what goes on. Bad smell. I want to block it. Number 1, I shower. Number 2, I put the perfume on, the one I want to smell like. Okay? Number 3, am I checking myself every 2 or 3 hours or so that I still smell like I want to smell? Number 4, did you change your clothes? Well, if you didn't change your clothes, all these 3 didn't mean anything. So how do you block? Is by not playing out the smell that you don't want to smell like. And making sure to have a reference as to how do you make sure that you're not going back and that you stay out of smelling like that. Now think about it. Think about it. How many milliseconds per day, millisecond per millisecond, do you care about that? Or is it that you consider that doing your spiritual practice is enough and then you just remain in a Zen state of mind? Or is it that you consider that doing your work is enough because that's what's important to you? So it doesn't matter everything else that you do during the day, such as, for example, it doesn't matter to observe the smell that is there unless I block it and check if I smell like that or not and make sure I smell like I want to smell. For example, okay, now I'm done from work. Now I'm going to watch a show, or I'm going to study a book, or I'm going to go to my buddies, or I'm going to talk to my wife or my... Yes? It doesn't matter to observe anymore. That's the conclusion that this ego or this pattern, this self-defense mechanism, this programming considers. But what are you not considering? Well, everything that you're not considering is exactly the same thing that your ego is not considering. Have you ever read a book and you're trying to remember that one fact about the book, that one thing that you want to remember that moment? You're talking about it, you really want to tell that moment about how is it that you found what you found, and what is it that you found that you're so driven to tell that, but you don't remember. What is it? What is it? You remember many things of reading that book, many aspects to every single chapter probably, but you just don't remember that one thing. Do you know what I'm talking about? That exactly is what I'm talking about. That's not random. That's not random at all. Have you ever wondered why you forget the keys, or you forgot that one thing, or why? Why why do you get angry when things are going well? Why do you randomly, just out of the blue, feel things that are not something that you decided, or think things that you did not decide? Well, yes, you're letting them in because you're not separating from the smell that you have not decided you don't want to smell like. Are you listening? So why is listening important? Because then by listening, I can hear myself. Am I nervous? Am I speaking too fast? Am I overthinking it? Am I stuttering? And I can go back and remember, why am I doing this? Why am I recording this video? Why is listening important? Check myself. Become transparent with myself. Do I smell like I want to smell? And now you can observe how many times my own subconscious programming kicks in, right? You can even hear what it wanted to say instead. You can even go back to it, like rewind it and find it and study it. That's the beauty of this work that I am demonstrating. That's the beauty of showing. You see, this is what I live for. This is what I decided is my vocation, my objective in life. To create your reality, the door is listening. But the key is your word. What is it that you spell out into existence? What is it? Have you ever thought about how many things you're not saying? How many things that you're leaving deep, shut down, not expressing them because there's no place to express them. There's not a world. There's not a society that listens. It's only your group of friends, maybe. Hopefully. There's only your family, maybe. Hopefully. Have you ever thought about all those things that you're not expressing? What goes on there? Well, I gotta say, friends, for me it's been years and years of wanting to express, particularly this. But it was a matter of, am I saying it right? Did I get it right? Am I stuttering? Does it look good? Is it clear enough? Is it ready enough? Has this happened to you? This is exactly what I'm talking about. Who decides if you're ready? Who decides if it's clear? Who decides if it's time? You see? I decide it's time because I want to give this to myself. This is what I live for. I live for. Yes, I want to benefit your life. Through benefiting mine. Listen. ideas, you speak them out, you hear them. You hear. What is it that I said? What is it that I did not say? Have you ever heard about the law of attraction and whatnot? That's not what this is. Although it's included, it's embedded. Because we're not repeating words and affirmations randomly. We're making a distinction. That distinction is in the language of the law of attraction. The universe is hearing and manifesting what you said, not what you think you said, not what you assume the universe understands. What I'm here to say is, are you distinguishing between those two? This is not the same thing. This is straight up deep dismantling. What is it that you do when you do what you do? What are you doing in what you're doing? What are you saying when you say what you say? Where are you? But more importantly, where are you starting from? Are you containing the words before speaking them? What does that mean? Well, do you recognize by self-referencing where are you and where you're not? What is your smell? What is not your smell? If you're not recognizing and differentiating between these two, it's a slippery slope. What are you wording out into existence? What are you desiring? And do you do everything to achieve that desire? Or what is it that happens? What is it that stops you? Whether it's within or outside of you, it's the same one thing. It's the same mechanism. Now, if you want to take it down the route of science, go directly. There's documentaries on this. It's called quantum mechanics, quantum physics. What the bleep do we know? You know about this. You want to take it further to understanding it better? Neurolinguistics programming. You're programming yourself. What you say, you hear. Well, your reality listens. Now, it may sound like, this guy is just repeating the same thing. I know this. I'm an expert at this. Well, yes, sure. You are an expert at this. You're creating your reality. What I'm here to question, I'm just asking, are you listening? Are you creating your reality? Are you making a distinction? This is where I'm at. This is where I'm not. Are you starting from the no? Or are you starting from the yes? Think about it. Do you focus on, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. I'm considering this, I'm considering this. Are you considering the no? This is what I'm not going to do. This is what I'm not ever going to allow myself to do. This is what I'm not considering. You see, the gold is in everything that you're overlooking. Because there's a reason as to why you're overlooking what you're overlooking. You see, the beauty is, how do you catch that unconscious program? How do you sneak up on it? How do you create the cage to like put in the cheese and seduce it? How do you create that space of listening, that inner combat? How do you create that? That's what I'm talking about, guys. How do you get to around it and at the same time aware of all directions? There's a mathematics to this, and I will post the link below where to get that book. It's an introduction, but hey, learn Spanish. You might already be on your way to this. What am I talking about? Have you ever wondered that every single piece that all cultures left are different aspects to the same key, including, for example, psychoanalysis? Let's say, for example, let's say I ask you, what are you looking for? In my case, when I was 23 years old, a Kabbalah teacher asked me, what do you want? And I said, I want peace. I want to love like God loves. In my head, it was something like enlightenment. So he looked at me and he said, okay, so you don't want anything. I was surprised. I thought it was a really good answer, to love like God loves. Well, what he meant to say is, yeah, but how do you measure that? How do you grasp that? And if that's what you want, then what are you going to eat? Okay, you still need clothes, right? Now, it doesn't mean that he strictly was talking about money, but because I didn't mention anything material, he did question that. So that's when I understood, that's when I started to understand. What am I actually saying? Am I going towards textbook enlightenment that I found in Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, or any school of meditation, Buddhism, etc.? Am I looking for something that someone else looked for? How does that make any sense? Well, it did. It did to me. And it still might make sense to you. You might even have glimpses of what that is. Sure. Well, what I'm talking about is, okay, you can reach that samadhi. Like, I did many yoga practices. I became certified and became certified. Pranayama, visioning with medicine plants, and yeah, sometimes even a whole week, almost a whole week, I was in this blissful state of consciousness, like a glimpse of what maybe the nirvana would look like. Well, what I discovered just recently, about 5 years ago, when I discovered that I wasn't listening to my words and how important that was that even so, if I'm in this blissful state, it might actually be more difficult to listen to myself. Have you ever thought about how less interested we become when we're very comfortable, like super relaxed? It's like we're just relaxed, so there's nothing else going on. Well, I've seen that to be exactly the opposite. As in, when relaxed, it's the most sticky territory, because so much more is being overlooked. Now, I'm not talking about living a life where you're paranoid about, all right, like, what's behind me, it's going to creep up on me. No, I'm talking about how do you make it enjoyable for yourself. Enjoy your life, but at the same time, don't remain a prisoner of something that you didn't wish to say, but you didn't correct yourself before saying it. Literally. How do you create that happiness or that joy or that peace? How do you measure that? I'm not questioning can you actually measure that? I'm saying how will you? How will you quantify that? Anything else that you're going towards? Have you ever written your objectives down? And then you observe it and it's like, maybe I should add this word. Maybe I should subtract this word. Well, there's so much value in listening to ourselves. I have seen it in so many people throughout all these previous 5 years. I have seen it in people who say, just an example, gosh, I've been eating so much lately. I'm getting fat. I gotta quit eating that much. And what happened? Days later, that person contracts a bacteria, an infection, a virus, or what do you call it? Parasite. Okay? So that person literally cannot eat because they have the diarrhea and stuff. So they start losing weight. I've seen this. That same person, I'm not even making this up at all. I'm not going to say who this person is. That same person, months after, again, gosh, I'm eating so much. I'm not going to eat that much anymore. I'm going to put myself on a diet. Okay? Literally, gum infection. Can't eat. Only soups with very, little amounts of calories, I guess. And examples like this, I have many. And you have your own. This is exactly what I'm talking about, friends. That you get bitten by a spider. That you twist your ankle. That your contract didn't go through. That this client canceled on you. I'm not saying in all cases, but what if there were cases where you had something to do with that result? Well, you might want to make sure. So how do we do this work, Alan? Establish what is it that you want to accomplish. But establish it, writing it. Writing it so you can read and listen to yourself. 4 goals, okay? State them like it is. You're creating it. You're generating it. You're making it happen. All you're doing is you're informing your reality. So your reality is encoded, okay, informed, and it knows what to show and reflect. The synchronicities. What to bring to you. Because what you emanate is what is reflected to you. Emanate, reflected to you. You're looking at the words you speak as you walk through the world. Even if it's another person's reality, if it enters yours, you let it in. Because these holes that your ego opens is part of the ego's agenda. That ankle you twisted, okay? It wasn't at that moment that was planned. No. It's months and months and months. You can trace it back. You don't have to believe me. But it's best to suspect that I'm close to right and to naming the thing. The way that I do is I never assume that I know what I'm saying. So I depend on making sure that I listen and I check myself millisecond to millisecond, like you can appreciate in the recording of this video. So the point is not to be perfect at it. The point is, are you there doing something about it? Having your goals written in a form that you are stating that that's what you're doing in present tense, you can observe what is it that you're actually doing, or in other words, what is it that programming, the ego, is actually wanting in that which you are saying you want. You see? Now, it's not, I said, it's not law of attraction, so you don't have the phrases, now you have the goal, you just have to speak it out loud. No. So now you have the blueprints to the metaphysical architecture of that which you're emanating. So now you know what's up with it. And most likely there's something up with it. And it's best to assume that that is so, just to make sure. That's my message. Now when it comes to the smell, well, what is it that you want to separate from? It doesn't matter if you are right about, is it being grumpy, is it being shy, is it being quiet, is it not listening? It doesn't matter. The point is, you're doing something about it. You're creating space, you're creating territory for yourself in your life. Yeah? You're inhabiting your habits. Like, you see when you wake up and then you're just going to the shower and taking a shower. Well, are you there? How many minutes of work time and you're doing your job? Are you actually there, or you're thinking about what you're going to do afterwards? That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about creating presence. I'm talking about creating territory for presence. You see? Creating territory for you to be present, for you to become alive, to create yourself into existence. Because life is not, this body is alive, and I have a job, and I have a woman that loves me, so I'm alive. Yes, you're alive, but do you exist in your life? Yeah? Creating territory for yourself to do as you will. So when I asked you, what is it that you live for? Or are you just following a script? In this question, it's a journey. Answer the question. Write it down. Listen. Observe. Listen. Observe. Does this sound like something that I heard? Does this sound like something that I read? Is this like generic, my neighbor would say it, I heard my dad say it? Is this like a script from a movie? Doesn't mean it's wrong. I'm just saying. Is that your answer? Your answer is someone else's answer? What do you live for? What do you live for? As in, why do you decide to be here? Are you even deciding to be here? Or are you just spontaneously here? So now you're dealing with it. How do you make a differentiation between being born just because this body is alive and being born because you decide to be born and to give birth to yourself, millisecond by millisecond? I'll give you a hint. If you're using more than 4 words to give an answer, you're probably lying to yourself. But that's what you live for. If you're using someone else, like to make this world a better place, to give my children to better things in the situation of the planet, to serve. What do you live for? See, I'm talking about the answer to how do you serve? As in, what you live for is the way that you go about in your life and do that thing you do. What is it? And are you listening?